30 years of loving couplehood reduced to a shocking scandal overnight. Ava Johnson, the Cinderella widow of business legend Ethan Miller, discovered after his accidental death that the adopted daughter I cherished was actually his illegitimate daughter with his mistress. Comforted by the family, pitied by the world, I became a breeding machine raising a child for my husband's mistress. Reborn 25 years ago, this time I will never let my dance talent be buried. The hypocrisy of my husband, the scheming of my rival, I will tear them to pieces with my own hands. In front of the coffin, the spotlights were like the eyes of vultures greedily capturing every inch of my sorrow. I am Ava Johnson, the widow of tech giant Ethan Miller. 3 days ago, a sudden car accident took him away, and also took away the male protagonist of the Cinderella and Prince fairy tale in the eyes of the world. For 30 years we were a model business couple. He was handsome and wealthy, and I was a gentle assistant. From an unknown dancer to the mistress of the Miller Group, my story was once the dream blueprint for countless girls. I wore his favorite black Chanel suit with a haggard face, but still maintained a decent sorrow, handling the company's affairs day after day, receiving guests who came to offer condolences like a robot with a set program. Media reports were overwhelming, praising our 30 years of unwavering love, praising Ethan's love for me, and the fact that although we were childless, we adopted our daughter Olivia and the family was still happy. I was immersed in this carefully woven narrative, using busyness and numbness to resist the boundless emptiness in my heart. On the 7th day after the funeral, the lawyer brought Ethan's will and a document that should not have appeared, a DNA paternity test report. The report's cold conclusion was like a poisoned dagger, accurately piercing my 30 years of self-deceptive dreams. Adoptive daughter Olivia Miller has a parent-child relationship with Ethan Miller, excluding me, Ava Johnson. And the biological mother column clearly written a name that I will never forget: Isabella Rossi. My brain buzzed and the world instantly faded, leaving only black and white. Isabella, the dance genius who was once as famous as me, the woman I thought had disappeared from Ethan's life long ago. Olivia, the daughter I raised with my own hands, poured countless efforts into, and regarded as my own, turned out to be proof of my husband and his mistress betraying me from the beginning. 30 years of childless agreement, 30 years of unwavering love, all a goddamn lie. I was like an idiot living in a carefully planned scam and willingly raising an illegitimate daughter for them. The news spread like a virus. The elders of the Miller family symbolically took me back to the old house to appease me, but their words were full of undisguised pity and a hint of schadenfreude. They patted the back of my hand and said, "Ava, it's been hard on you. Not only were you unable to leave Ethan's bloodline, but you also raised someone else's child for so many years." Every comfort was like rubbing salt in my wounds. The outside world's discussion was even more turbulent, from the initial sympathy gradually evolving into a kind of scrutiny with a sense of superiority. They said I was pitiful, unable to have children, deceived by my husband, and ended up with nothing. I gave my youth, gave up my dreams, managed the company for him, maintained the family for him, and in the end all my efforts became a big joke. I stood in front of the Miller family's old mansion's luxurious floor-to-ceiling windows, looking at the gloomy sky outside, and felt the bone-chilling cold and absurdity. For the first time, nothing is more devastating than a dead heart. I quickly handled my affairs and transferred my shares in the Miller Group to Olivia, according to Ethan's last wish, only wanting to cut ties with this family full of lies and betrayals as soon as possible. However, the day after the share transfer was completed, Olivia, the daughter I had raised for more than 10 years, informed me in an almost indifferent tone, "Isabella is returning to the country and she said she wants to take away Dad's ashes." There was no consideration for me in her eyes, only a secret joy of reuniting with her biological mother. That moment I clearly realized that the bond of blood was far stronger than my decade of nurturing. My last hope for her was also completely shattered. Isabella Rossi is back with the air of a victor. She's dressed in plain black, but it can't hide the charm between her brows. In front of Ethan's tomb, she put on a heartfelt solo performance, telling the cold tombstone about "missed love" and "helpless waiting." The media, like sharks smelling blood, quickly changed their tune. Public opinion began to ferment, saying that Isabella was Ethan's True love. The two were a perfect match, and Ava Johnson was just a cuckoo in the nest, a woman who was lucky enough to be a nanny for 30 years. Looking at Isabella's tearful but triumphant face on the news, a long-sealed memory suddenly crashed into my mind. Many years ago I was also a promising dance genius, and an international master's apprenticeship opportunity that could change my life was within my reach, but Ethan gently persuaded me to give up on the grounds that Isabella needs this opportunity more than you do. Her family is not well off, let's help her. At that time I was immersed in love and foolishly chose to help her succeed. It turned out that from that time on I was already her stepping stone, her substitute. Isabella came directly to my door demanding to take away Ethan's ashes. Ava, thank you for taking care of Ethan for so many years. Now it's time for him to return to the side of the person who truly loves him. Her tone was condescendingly arrogant, and every word pierced my heart like a needle. Olivia stood beside her holding her arm. The picture of mother and daughter's deep affection was extremely dazzling. You can take the ashes. I was surprisingly calm. Olivia, you go with her too. Olivia was stunned for a moment, and then a hint of calculation flashed in her eyes. Aunt Ava, the company still needs me now. Sure enough, compared to the illusory paternal and maternal love, the shares and interests of the Miller Group are what she values more. My heart is completely cold, like the frozen soil on the Siberian ice sheet. Late at night I sat alone in the empty living room, and memories flashed before my eyes. I remembered my first meeting with Ethan, which was after Isabella left without saying goodbye and went to a faraway place. He was distraught at that time, and it was my gentle companionship that helped him gradually get out of the shadows. Now that I think about it, I was just a tool for him to heal his wounds, a clumsy imitation of Isabella. I remember when we decided to adopt a child, Ethan insisted on naming our daughter Olivia. At that time he said the name had a beautiful meaning, but now I realize how similar the pronunciation of Olivia is to Isabella. He was using this method to secretly miss the white moonlight in his heart. 30 years of marriage from beginning to end was a carefully choreographed solo performance, and I was the clown who was kept in the dark and still moved myself. All the love, all the unwillingness, all the resentment at this moment have turned into nothingness. My heart is dead. My consciousness sank into boundless darkness, then was abruptly pulled back. I opened my eyes, and the harsh sunlight shone in through the cracks in the curtains. This wasn't the villa where Ethan and I had lived for 30 years, but the small apartment we rented in the 5th year of our marriage. The calendar on the wall showed a date that made my heart stop. 25 years ago. I was reborn to the age of 27, when my dance career still had unlimited potential, and the turning point that changed my fate. The opportunity for an international dance master to come to America to select a close disciple was right in front of me. This time I will never give up the glory that belongs to me. Ava, I want to talk to you about the master taking on a disciple. Ethan sat across from me, his handsome face with his usual gentle smile, but his tone was unquestionable. You also know Isabella's situation. She is very talented, but her family has a heavy burden. This opportunity is too important for her. You are my wife now, and we are a family. We should support each other. Let's give her this spot. It's just the icing on the cake for you, but it's a lifeline for her. The same old story. Exactly the same as in my previous life. He casually wants to deprive me of my dream using hypocritical moral shackles like, for your own good, and we are family, to kidnap me. In my previous life I was moved by these words and foolishly gave up. But now standing in front of him is Ava, who has experienced 30 years of deception and betrayal. I looked at him and clearly and firmly uttered 3 words. I want to go too. The smile on Ethan's face froze. He obviously didn't expect that the always docile me would refuse. Ava, don't be silly, it's not good for you. Dancing is too hard. Wouldn't it be nice for you to be Mrs. Miller? He tried to appease me with his usual methods. Seeing that I was unmoved, his face darkened. Since you insist, then you can take care of it yourself. In the following days he began to be cold to me, and no longer as caring as before. I know this is just a facade. In secret he must be using his connections and resources to pave the way for Isabella with all his strength while subtly hindering me. The emails I sent to the master's assistant disappeared without a trace, and the calls I made were always unanswered. Ethan thought I didn't know, but his little tricks were as clear as the lines on my palm. In the eyes of this reborn person. I pretended to know nothing and watched Ethan's performance coldly. Every day when he came home he would intentionally or unintentionally mention Isabella's rapid progress, saying that the master favored her, and his words were filled with undisguised joy and anticipation, as if Isabella's success was his own. Watching him try so hard and be so happy for another woman, my heart felt like it was soaked in ice water. This man, whether in his past or present life, has only ever had Isabella Rossi in his heart. To me there may have been brief admiration and need, but never love. Since he wants to play dirty, don't blame me for being unkind. I no longer place my hopes on normal application channels. I found out the master's itinerary and hotel in the United States. One afternoon, avoiding Ethan's eyes and ears, I waited directly in the hotel coffee shop. When the internationally renowned dance master appeared, I stepped forward without much small talk and improvised a dance. In front of him, that was a dance segment that I had polished countless times in my previous life, blending skill and emotion. The master's eyes went from initial surprise to appreciation to amazement. When the dance was over, I calmly told him Master, my name is Ava Johnson. I know you have received many letters of recommendation, perhaps mine is not among them because someone doesn't want you to see me. But I believe my dance will speak for me. I didn't directly name Ethan, but the information revealed in my words was enough for this master who had seen countless people to understand the key to it. He looked at me for a long time and nodded. Young man, you were indeed born for dance. Come to my studio tomorrow. I knew I had succeeded. I had taken back the opportunity that should have belonged to me from Ethan and Isabella. Just when I thought everything was developing in a good direction, an unexpected person appeared at my door. Isabella Rossi, holding a little girl about 2 or 3 years old with a face of just the right amount of haggardness and helplessness. Ethan Avi. She hesitated, her eyes turning red. That child with black hair and black eyes even had a bit of Ethan's look between her brows. My heart shrank suddenly. Olivia. She appeared so early. In my previous life, Ethan proposed adoption 10 years after our marriage, saying it was a child of a distant relative whose parents had died and was very pitiful. Now it seems that it was just another lie he made up to cover up the truth. When Ethan saw the child, a flash of panic flashed in his eyes, but he quickly concealed it. He stepped forward, took the child, and turned to me, his tone pleading. Ava, this is Isabella. My sister's child. Her sister passed away, leaving this poor child with no one to take care of her. It's not easy for Isabella, a girl, to take care of the child. Do you think we can No. I interrupted him, my voice as cold as ice. Ethan, our house is not an orphanage. And I glanced at the child in Isabella's arms, who looked so much like Ethan, and the corners of my mouth curled into a mocking arc. I see that you are very skilled at holding children. You must already have a lot of fatherhood experience. You don't need another one to practice on. My words had a double meaning, and Ethan's face instantly became very ugly, and Isabella also stood there awkwardly. Ethan probably didn't expect that I would refuse so directly and also be so barbed in my words, implying that I already knew something. He opened his mouth wanting to say something, but in the end just stood there stiffly holding the child. The day of the audition arrived. Many media and well-known figures in the dance world gathered at the scene. Everyone thought that the master's close disciple must be Isabella. After all, Ethan Miller had been building momentum for her for a long time. When the master walked onto the stage, picked up the microphone, and clearly announced, After careful consideration, I have decided that my close disciple is Ava Johnson. The whole audience was in an uproar. Isabella's face instantly turned pale, and Ethan stood up in shock, wanting to question her in a fit of madness. At this time, the master's assistant stepped forward and said to Ethan in a humble but firm manner, Mr. Miller, the master already knows about your attempt to bribe my former assistant to win a spot for Miss Rossi. The master chooses disciples based only on talent and character. Ethan's face turned red and white as if he had been slapped in the face in public. All eyes were focused on him and Isabella, full of scrutiny and ridicule. This was the first time since my rebirth that I had slapped their faces hard in public. I got my wish and became the master's last disciple, and I was about to follow him to Europe for 2 years of advanced studies. However, just as I was preparing to leave, I learned a disgusting piece of news. Ethan and Isabella were going too. Ethan's reason was high-sounding. Ava, you're unfamiliar with the place in a foreign country. I'm going to take care of you and expand European business, by the way. As for Isabella, she was going with the master's team under the name of needing to continue learning and not being able to give up her dream. Their purpose was obvious: to interfere with me up close while looking for new opportunities for Isabella, trying to replicate the scene from my previous life where I yielded my place. I sneered in my heart, want to follow? Then come on, let's see who the ultimate winner will be this time. Upon arriving at the dance academy in Europe, Ethan predictably started his offensive. He frequently asked me out for dinner and opera under the guise of quality time, trying to take up my training time and distract me. I played along, making sure I was coincidentally busy every time, and then thoughtfully suggesting to him, "You must be bored alone, why not invite Isabella along? She's new here and definitely needs someone to accompany her." Ethan couldn't refuse and had to take Isabella on dates. The result was predictable. Isabella quickly aroused the dissatisfaction of other teachers due to frequent absences from training and poor performance. And I, using my status as the master's last disciple, legitimately gave Isabella special tutoring, making her repeat the boring basic exercises over and over again. "Isabella, your foundation needs to be strengthened. The master is very strict with the basics." I looked at her, gritting her teeth but having to obey, and my heart was unmoved. Ethan quickly discovered my little tricks. He found me, his tone with suppressed anger. "Ava, you don't need to target Isabella. She's already working very hard. Why do you always make her practice those basic things?" "Target?" I looked up at him, my eyes cold. "Ethan, I'm helping her build a solid foundation. That's being responsible for her. Or are you saying she can't even handle this little bit of hardship?" Ethan was speechless. And Isabella, because she couldn't keep up with the progress in training, was often ridiculed by other senior sisters openly and secretly. She vented her resentment on Ethan, complaining that he hadn't helped her secure better resources. The deep brother-sisterly affection between the two began to crack. On the eve of the Academy's internal selection competition final, the dance costume tailored by a well-known designer that I prepared for the final mysteriously disappeared. I didn't need to think to know who was behind it. Just as I was in a panic, Ethan appeared. "Ava, can't find your costume, huh?" He had an air of, "Everything is under control. I can help you get it back, but you must promise me one condition. During the final, find a way to get Isabella on stage to perform as well." I looked at him. At that moment I only felt extreme disgust. For Isabella, he actually used such despicable means to blackmail me. But I couldn't lose this stage opportunity. I took a deep breath, suppressed the nausea in my heart, and looked at him coldly. "Okay, I promise you. You help me solve the costume problem, and after the final I will plead with the teacher to give Isabella a chance to show herself. This is a deal." Ethan was indeed omnipotent, and quickly retrieved my dance costume. On the day of the final, I walked onto the stage with confidence, wearing the magnificent dance costume that had been recovered. However, during a difficult jump landing, a sharp pain came from my ankle. I fell to the stage unexpectedly. A strong sense of dizziness struck and I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was already lying in a hospital bed with my ankle fixed with thick plaster. The master's assistant was with me. I struggled to ask, "Where's Ethan?" The assistant's expression was a little complicated. "Miss Ava, after you fell, Mr. Miller was going to come over, but he received a call saying that Miss Rossi suddenly had a high fever, so he went to take care of Miss Rossi first." My heart sank to the bottom in that instant. I almost broke my leg and might ruin my entire dance career, and in Ethan's heart this was not as important as Isabella's high fever. 30 years of illusory love was completely shattered at this moment, leaving not even a trace of ashes. "Ava." A familiar and worried voice sounded. I turned my head and saw a slightly green but caring face. Chloe? Chloe Davis. I couldn't believe that I met my high school classmate Chloe, who is now a doctor here. It really is you. Chloe walked over quickly and looked carefully at my ankle. Oh my God, how could it be so badly injured? I watched the video of your competition. That fall was too abnormal. Avi, have to be careful. I suspect someone deliberately tampered with it. She paused, then looked at me sincerely. However, you are really too dazzling on the stage, like you are glowing. Don't be discouraged by this setback. Chloe's warm words and sincere eyes, like a ray of sunshine, dispelled some of the haze that had accumulated in my heart. At least there are still people who are sincerely good to me and sincerely appreciate me. Ethan arrived late in the evening. He had a just right look of concern on his face, came over to tuck in the quilt for me, and reached out to feel my forehead. How do you feel? Is there anything uncomfortable? He performed so realistically, but looking at his hypocritical face and comparing it to his behavior of abandoning the seriously injured me for Isabella's high fever, my stomach churned, leaving only physiological nausea. He didn't even ask about my injury in detail, just making these superficial caring gestures.
My heart is completely dead, and even hatred has become weak. Watching Ethan still playing the affectionate husband there, I calmly opened my mouth, my voice without a trace of wave. Ethan, let's get divorced. The worry on Ethan's face instantly solidified, and then replaced with shock and disbelief. Ava? What are you talking about? Did you get confused from the fall? Don't be silly. He obviously thought I was just being temperamental or emotionally unstable because of the injury. Mr. Miller, Chloe walked in with the examination report at this moment. She glanced at Ethan and said in a serious tone, Miss Johnson's injury is very serious. Ligament tear and a slight fracture. If not treated properly, it may affect her future dance career and even risk her becoming lame. Hearing the words lame, Ethan's face finally changed, and a trace of genuine guilt appeared on his face. Only then did he begin to anxiously inquire Chloe in detail about my injury, precautions, and even took out his phone to start recording. But this belated concern, in my opinion, only seemed more ridiculous and hypocritical. He doesn't care about me. He's just afraid of bearing the responsibility for ruining my career. Ethan probably thought my tantrum was only temporary. In the following days, he turned down social engagements and stayed in the hospital almost every step of the way, being extremely attentive to me, pouring tea, serving water, peeling fruit, telling jokes, and even forcibly preventing Isabella from visiting. Putting on an act of a prodigal son returning is more precious than gold. Trying to win me back with a gentle offensive. But I felt no emotional fluctuations in my heart, just coldly watching his one-man show. Chloe came to visit me again, and happened to run into Ethan busy in the ward. The auras of the two people were obviously incompatible. Mr. Miller is so considerate. Chloe's tone was obviously sarcastic. But I think, compared to Miss Johnson's almost broken leg, Miss Rossi's high fever must have made you more anxious, right? Chloe's words were like a sharp knife, directly tearing open Ethan's hypocritical fig leaf. Ethan's face turned livid instantly. Dr. Chloe, please watch your words. Isabella and I are just siblings. Oh, sibling affection. I leaned against the head of the bed, coldly looking at him. Then shouldn't you show a little more concern for me, your wife? Or are you saying that in your heart, sister is more important than wife? I used his own logic to satirize him. And Ethan was choked up and couldn't say a word, his face only showing embarrassment turning into anger. After Chloe left, only Ethan and I were left in the ward. He was silent for a long time, and finally walked over, trying to hold my hand, but I avoided it. Ava, his voice had a faint tremor. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have left you that day. I admit, I feel guilty towards Isabella. After all, we've known each other for so many years, and I'm used to taking care of her. But that's just guilt and habit, not love. The person I love is you, Ava. Give me a chance, I will be a good husband. Let's start over, okay? He tried to use repentance and confession to save the situation. I looked at him, my eyes without any warmth, and directly exposed his last lie. That child Olivia is yours, isn't she? Ethan's pupils shrank sharply, the color drained from his face, and he frantically explained. No. Ava, don't think wildly. That really was an accident. I was drunk. Surprise! I interrupted his pale and weak lie, a mocking arc appearing at the corner of my mouth. So surprising that it precisely led to her pregnancy and childbirth? Ethan, your guilt and habit are so good that they can lead to getting into bed. I didn't give him any chance to explain, speaking clearly and resolutely word by word. Ethan Miller, we are getting a divorce. Immediately, right now. Seeing the undeniable determination in my eyes, Ethan's eyes were filled with despair and deep regret. He seemed to finally realize that this time, I was serious, and there was no possibility between us anymore. I took a long leave of absence from the academy to recuperate and began to process the divorce. Ethan went crazy, frantically searching for me after I was discharged from the hospital. He kept calling me, sending messages, and even went to the downstairs of my friend's house where I was temporarily staying, sending letters of sincere and tearful confession. He seemed to believe that I was just using the divorce to punish him, and as long as he was sincere enough, I would definitely change my mind. His entanglement annoyed me endlessly. I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. With Chloe's help, I found a lawyer and sent him the signed divorce agreement. At the same time, under the arrangement of the dance master, I quietly completed the procedures to go to Italy and joined an internationally renowned dance team. I wanted to completely leave this place full of lies and betrayal, leave Ethan Miller's sight, and start my real new life. But I still underestimated Ethan's obsession. He actually chased me to Italy. He refused to sign the divorce agreement for a long time, and instead appeared in my life like a ghost. Every day, he would show up on time at the door of the classroom where I practiced dancing, or downstairs in the apartment, holding flowers, gifts, or just standing there silently, looking at me with wounded puppy eyes. His behavior caused me great distress, and also attracted the attention of other people in the team. On our wedding anniversary, it was drizzling cold rain in Italy. Late at night, I was awakened by the persistent doorbell downstairs. Looking out the window, I saw Ethan standing in the rain, soaked to the bone, holding a cake, looking stubbornly up at my window. The rain soaked his hair and clothes, making him look disheveled. Eventually, I went downstairs. When he saw me, his eyes lit up instantly, and he stepped forward with the cake, saying, "Ava, happy anniversary. Can we talk?" I looked at him coldly, at the man who ruined my past life, and now tries to continue to entangle me in this life. "Ethan, we're over." My voice was calm, and without a trace of emotion. The light on his face gradually faded, and his hand loosened, the cake falling to the ground, the cream and rainwater mixing together, splashing all over him in a mess. I didn't look at him again, turned around, and resolutely walked into the apartment building. Ethan didn't give up there. He spent his days drinking in Italy, constantly calling to harass me, even affecting my normal training in life. I couldn't bear it anymore. Since he wasn't willing to leave gracefully, then don't blame me for solving the problem in his way. I used the portion of Miller Group's shares that belonged to my personal property, which I controlled before the divorce, and joined forces with several minority shareholders who had long been dissatisfied with Ethan, creating some minor troubles within the company, enough to make him overwhelmed and have to return to the United States to deal with it immediately. After receiving an emergency call from the American company, Ethan finally had to temporarily abandon his siege of me. The night before he returned to the United States, he came to me one last time. "Ava," he stood in front of me, his eyes full of fatigue and bloodshot. "Come back with me, okay? Let's start over, I promise, I'll be good to you, Ethan," I interrupted him, my tone calm but with an unquestionable determination. Love is not a faucet that can be turned on again after it's turned off. It is exhausted in countless days and nights, in your repeated lies, betrayals, and choices. I don't love you anymore, and I won't give you any more chances. Watching the last bit of hope in his eyes completely shattered, turning into dead silence and despair, I knew that this entanglement was finally coming to an end. After Ethan returned to the United States, he finally signed the divorce agreement. I completely regained my freedom and devoted all my energy to my dance career. The Italian sunshine and artistic atmosphere nourished me, and my dancing skills became increasingly mature. Soon after, I heard bits and pieces of news about Ethan from Chloe. Isabella tried to force him to marry her with a child, but Ethan had already lost all hope and refused her. Isabella became enraged and retaliated, accusing Ethan of rape in court. Although Ethan was not convicted in the end due to insufficient evidence, this farce severely damaged the reputation and stock price of the Miller Group. Ethan was under great pressure, drank even more heavily, and occasionally sent me some harassing messages, but I directly blacklisted him and ignored them. Their world has nothing to do with me anymore. 2 years later, at the world's top dance competition held in Rome, I conquered all the judges and audience with a vibrant and explosive modern dance, winning the gold medal in one fell swoop. Standing under the spotlight, holding the heavy trophy, listening to the thunderous applause, I knew that I had finally realized the dream I failed to complete in my previous life, and lived the way I wanted to. Back at the hotel, I received a huge bouquet of anonymous red roses, with only 2 simple words on the card: "Congratulations." I recognized the handwriting. It was Ethan's. I casually gave the bouquet, symbolizing his belated apology and unwillingness, to the shivering beggar at the hotel entrance. Another half-month passed, and on a quiet afternoon, I received a call from Chloe. Her voice was a little heavy. Ava Ethan Miller died in a car accident. Almost the same ending as in the previous life, only the time was brought forward a lot. Hearing this news, my heart was surprisingly calm, without joy or sadness, just like hearing the death of a stranger. I once loved him, with all my youth and passion, but that love had already been buried with that foolish self at the moment of rebirth. Now to me, he is just a name, a past that has already been turned over. I don't regret having loved, but I'm glad I finally woke up and reclaimed my life. After dealing with the follow-up matters of the competition, I returned to the academy in Italy to report my results to my mentor. On a sunny afternoon, I was having tea with my teacher in the garden, when Chloe walked in holding a bouquet of bright sunflowers. "Congratulations, world champion." She smiled and handed me the flowers. "I'm proud of you." We smiled at each other, the sun shining on us, warm and bright. I knew that my brilliant future had only just begun.